I thought she got fouled. I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games. A minus 31 free throw discrepancy. And I might be able to understand it if we were just chucking threes, but we're not. We're attacking the rim. And the disrespect right now for our team has been pretty unbelievable. So it's disappointing.
In front of everyone, Stephanie White was furious about the Indiana Fever's loss to the Liberty last night. She said, what we've all been thinking is that the Fever were robbed of minus 31 free throw discrepancy over recent games, a blatant no call on Caitlin Clark in the final seconds that could have tied the game. White didn't hold back questioning whether the WNBA system even works anymore. In this video, we'll share the highlights, replays, and all the receipts against these WNBA referees. Let's go, she said. Aaliyah Boston was unstoppable, scoring 27 points and grabbing 13 rebounds. Lexi Hall made a huge contribution in her first start of the season, scoring 15 points when her team needed her most. Watch this with her shoulder and on her arm when she follows through and then fouls her for the 4th time on her arm. It's cheating, and it's obvious as day. The haters will say, she got locked up. I'm going through the entire game, but the corrupt officials gave this game to New York, and they still barely won. The numbers don't lie. New York reached the free throw line 32 times, while the Fever only made 15 attempts, more than doubling the Liberty's free throw total in a game decided by 2 points. When the other team has twice as many chances from the charity line, you can't win games. Indiana played championship-level basketball, but something felt wrong from the first tip. The referees didn't sound their whistles when they should have. Every time the Fever drove to the basket, they made contact, hard contact, the kind that should have sent players to the free throw line. But the officials remained silent for Indiana. Here's what truly demonstrated the Fever's potential. They outscored the Liberty by 17 points in the third quarter, outscoring the defending champions by 17 points. The Fever demonstrated that they could compete with the best team in the league when given an equal opportunity, and Caitlin Clark bravely fought through everything they threw at her: double teams, physical play, strike at a three, patted a lot of bodies on the floor, and tried to split the defense by going into traffic and reversing it off the glass. Even though she was under constant pressure, she managed to score 18 points and dish out 10 assists. However, the referees kept their whistles in their pockets when Clark was fouled, while the Liberty players were being called for much lighter contact and no pass shot possessions. For New York, Clark stepped back 3 times, and then she hit it, drawing the foul and welcoming back Caitlin Clark. The Fever actually had the game won until the officiating took over, and the Liberty mounted a comeback not only through excellent play, but also through a string of calls that changed the momentum entirely. Jonquel Jones scored 14 points in the final quarter for New York. She was aggressive, attacking the rim and getting calls that the Fever players weren't receiving. On the other hand, it was clear to everyone watching that our third quarter was excellent. We won by 17 points, which put us in a position to win. In other words, we basically played one strong quarter of basketball and lost to the reigning champions by 2, so I suppose that's a good thing. There are many ways to keep improving, though, because the Fever had already shown they could outplay the Liberty, so this was about getting a fair shot from the officials. Heartbreak, Indiana was playing basketball at the championship level, but they were up against biased officiating. Every possession and call mattered, and the referees were going to decide this game in the most controversial way possible in the final seconds. This is where everything went wrong, and you'll see how the referees stole this game from the Indiana Fever, who were behind by 2 points with 9 seconds remaining. Caitlin Clark grabs the ball for what should have been the game-tying moment. This was their chance, and Clark catches the ball up top, as Natasha Cloud makes evident. So the replay shows clear contact with Clark multiple times before, during, and after the play. It's the type of foul that is called 100 times during a typical game, but the officials never completely stopped talking about it. A 3 off-target bat put a lot of bodies on the floor, and Clark tried to split the defense, but he went into traffic and reversed it off the glass. Caitlin Clark was fearless, and you can see how she used her body to shield the defender. This should have sent Clark to the free throw line for 2 shots, and 2 free throws, which could have tied the game. The Fever season ended in the worst possible way when the referees blew 3 calls in the final 3 possessions of the game. First, Dana Bonner was completely destroyed without a call, but that wasn't the only controversial call. In those final moments, 2 plays earlier, the referees missed a clear foul on her. She had a wide open layup and was hacked hard, missing the shot because of the contact. There was no whistle, no call, and the Fever lost another scoring opportunity that would have put them up immediately after the game. Even though Lexi Hall was in perfect legal guarding position and wasn't reaching or grabbing, the referee still called the missed call for a phantom foul on Sabrina Ionescu. Then, when Bonner gets hammered, shouldn't those free throws from Ionescu become the game-winning points that shouldn't have happened? She makes both shots and puts the Liberty ahead points that came from a call that never should have happened, while the Fever are getting no calls on much more obvious contact on the other end, and this is the worst one. The haters will tell you that she got locked up if you're fouling the entire game, but I'm going through the entire game, and the corrupt officials gave it to New York, and they still barely won 3 crucial calls in the final moments, all 3 going against the Fever, all 3 changing the outcome of this game. First, there was no call on the Bonner foul that could have given Indiana the lead. Then there was a phantom call on the hole that gave the Liberty free throws in the lead. And finally, there was no call on Clark's drive. Then she holds her watch over her shoulder and on her arm that could have tied the game. This is the proof that everyone is discussing, and it is obvious bias that cost Indiana the game. The Fever earned the right to have this game decided by basketball, not by referees who kept their whistles in their pockets when Indiana needed calls. Most coaches, you've talked about how the game has been officiated for you guys. Did you see the foul that was not called or the lack of foul on the Bonner play, and then follow it up with Lexi Hall getting called for the foul? I thought it was egregious, honestly. I felt like AB had one going to the rim. They were in rotation, and the DBs were crazy, and then the Lexes, I felt like equally we talk about coming into the path, and it was an offensive player veering into the defensive player's path. So, I mean, it's what it is, and we have to be able to play through it, but at the same time, I feel like it's really disrespectful. Stephanie White had every right to be angry after what happened to her team, and she walks into that press conference knowing that her team was robbed, and her unfiltered emotions speak for her. Before she even speaks, he drops the bombshell that everyone needed to hear, a -31 free throw discrepancy over the last few games. 31 fewer free throw attempts than their opponents. White makes it clear that this isn't just about one bad call, but about a pattern of officiating that's been going against the Fever for weeks. The disrespect for our team right now has been pretty unbelievable, so it's disappointing, and we can't let that get to us. She said, I thought she got fouled. I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games. Pretty egregious is coach speak for completely ridiculous. White doesn't use such language unless there is a serious problem with the way the games are being called. I thought she got fouled. I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games. A -31 free throw discrepancy. And I might be able to understand it if we were just chucking threes, but we're not. We're attacking the rim. In essence, she's saying that the league doesn't care when teams complain about poor officiating because the system is broken. This isn't just frustration talking. She is defending her players from systematic unfair treatment. White specifically mentions how aggressive her team has been attacking the rim, saying, we're attacking the rim. She points out that the Fever should be receiving more calls, not fewer, because they're playing the kind of game that the league is known for. A basketball that typically results in fouls, but the referees aren't calling a step. Given your perspective on the first 4 games, is that something you've already tried to be proactive with the league, or you'll reach out to them and let them know your feelings? Well, look, there's a system in place to make sure that we can send things in and communicate our grievances, so to speak. I don't know that I ever feel like the system works, We're not looking for a change, we're just looking for consistency, White's unfiltered emotion demonstrates the depth of this issue. It's no longer just about one game, it's about respect. her team isn't receiving the respect they deserve from officials, and the Fever are fighting a losing battle every night because the referees treat them differently than other teams. White's bravery in speaking out publicly exposes the pattern of bias the Fever have been dealing with all season, as most coaches remain silent about officiating out of fear of being fined. White doesn't care about the repercussions. She will defend her players and call out the league when needed. This press conference will be remembered as the time someone finally said what must be said, that White put the WNBA on notice because of the biased officiating against the team. Caitlin Clark deserves better, and the fans deserve games that are decided by basketball, not by referees who don't whistle when Indiana is fouled. Here's the twist that no one saw coming. This heartbreak might be exactly what the team needed to win a championship. Clark herself stated, "We are 2 possessions from being 4-0 after the loss." On the plus side, you could say that you're 2 possessions away from being 4-0 in these games. You look at games from both perspectives. For example, we are 2 possessions ahead or 4-0, but there were a lot of small areas where we could have improved. For example, our defense was weak to begin the game, and we needed to find a way to come out with more energy because we couldn't guard. Yes, they present a very tough challenge when all 5 of them can make threes and they're setting inverted ball screens and other things like that. It's a challenge, but you have to find a way to overcome the adversity. It feels like every game we've really only put 2 quarters together. That's the kind of honest assessment that shows this team understands what they need to work on. Consistency is definitely where we can be a lot better. Clark said, "I think that's going to be a learning curve because this group is new and haven't played a ton together, but that's what's going to have to happen. This is early in the season when there is actually time to learn and grow from it." I believe that's an area where we can definitely improve. Aaliyah, Boston's dominant performance against the defending champions proved that this team has multiple weapons beyond Clark. Her 27 points and 13 rebounds against the defending champions is not just good, it's elite level basketball. Boston demonstrated that she can carry the scoring load when Clark has an off night. Championship teams need that kind of depth. If we want to beat the really good teams in this league, you have to figure out how to put together 4 really good quarters. You know there will be runs. We're playing consistently throughout the game, so it's easy to say that we're not getting over the hump in the 4th quarter, but I believe that our start in the 2nd quarter was better than ours, so we need to improve that so that when we do get to the 4th quarter, it's not this close. After all, it was competitive basketball, and sometimes the ball just doesn't roll your way, but I think that if we focus on how we start, it will be better for us in that 4th quarter. Lexi Hall stepping up in her first start demonstrates the depth. Even with Clark's shooting issues, the team remained competitive against the defending champions, the Fever, who led by 12 points in the 4th quarter and outscored New York by 17 points in the 3rd. This early season fire is building a team that won't back down from anyone or anything. Getting robbed by the referees in a close game creates mental toughness and gives Stephanie White another weapon to use. Championship teams absolutely need 15 points from a player who made her first start of the season. Toughness, the Fever now know they can compete with the league's best team even when everything goes against them. How do you accept officiating without letting it, I suppose, affect how you go about and play the rest of the game? It seems like we have no choice because they're going to call what they want to call, so we have to finish through contact. If we don't get it, we don't get it, but we have to give ourselves the best chance to get that basket. And every championship team experiences adversity during their journey, and the Fever are overcoming theirs early in the season rather than waiting for the playoffs. They're learning how to handle pressure situations and how to respond when calls don't go their way. By the time the playoffs arrive, this team will be battle-tested and ready for anything the league throws at them. This is bringing fans together and creating a us against the world mentality that championship teams feed off. When everyone feels like the league is working against you, we'll have a few days to work on practice, and we'll use that as an opportunity to look at some of the things that got us here. We need to move the ball, hit singles, and not make home run plays. We have a tendency to try to make the home run play all the time, the dagger or the play that gets the momentum going. But it doesn't have to be that way. We can make the easy plays. So those were more of the communications, keeping our intensity level on both ends of the floor. Calm down. When it comes to playing championship caliber teams, there is very little room for error. The referees can try to stop them, but they can't stop what's coming for the Indiana Fever. They are creating something special, and no amount of biased officiating will stop them. We saw what happened when they got upset. Aaliyah Boston dominated. Lexi Hall stepped up. Caitlin Clark persevered through everything they threw at her in the previous game against Atlanta. And you saw the incredible contributions of Natasha Howard, Sophie Cunningham, and even Dearest Dantas. The controversy has brought players and fans together, proving that championship teams need every bad call. Prepares them for 2025, when the Fever will demonstrate to the world what happens when you feed a fire. Please share your thoughts about these terrible referees in the comment section below. Subscribe and enable all notifications so you don't miss anything. Click the video on the screen, and we'll talk to you in the next